All right, by now you have successfully licensed a Rockettheme template. You've downloaded it and hopefully installed it on your host provider, your server. And if you're not quite sure on just how to get that going with your host provider and how to set up your database and how to install Joomla on your server, we do have some tutorials to help you out there, and they are under the Basic Skills module here at Joomla Skills. You'll see that we have tutorials on all of those things. So if you're just not quite sure on how to do some of this installation process, you can take a look at those tutorials. But in this lesson, we're going to have a brief orientation to a typical Rockettheme template. And for this series of lessons, we're going to be focusing in on the lexicon template by Rockettheme. However, many of the principles that we will be showing you as we work with the lexicon theme will also apply to almost any of the other Rockettheme templates. So if you are working with another template and you're just kind of scratching your head a little bit as to how to get going with it, this lesson will be good for you as well. Now, for this lesson, I have just installed this lexicon template on a new domain called adravideos.com. And it is going to be a live site. We're going to leave it up once it's finished and continue to add to it over the years. So it'll be a site that you can continue to come back to and check out how I've done things. It's not going to go away on you. But having just installed this, our control panel should look practically identical to what you have on your computer screen if you have just also uploaded and installed this Rockettheme template. And just in case you haven't been following along, we downloaded the Rocket Launcher package, which will include some sample data. Probably the first thing that you should do is authenticate your theme with Rockettheme. And what this does is it links your particular installation with the license that you purchased. And this is done for a couple of reasons. It proves to Rockettheme that this is a valid use of their template, their theme, and it also allows you to have access to any updates that come along for your template. And so that's the first thing that I usually do is authenticate my installation with my license at Rockettheme. And how you do that is plug in your username and password that you set up when you registered with Rockettheme. All right, and now we are authenticated, and we can tell by the little green check mark there, we're good to go for any updates that come along. All right, the next thing that we should notice here is that Joomla is telling us that there is an update to the Joomla package itself. And you might be tempted to go ahead and update that so you have the latest version from Joomla. However, that may not be the best idea. What I always do is wait until I know from my reading on the Rockettheme forum that everything on this theme and all of the extensions that come with this theme are ready for the latest version of Joomla before I update. I don't want to break something, maybe one of the extensions that is necessary to run this theme. Whenever a brand new release comes from Joomla, I usually wait, a month or so before I might take that. Well, notice that there are other updates that are available. We could click on that and see what shows up. Nothing really shows up at the moment. It says check back later. So we'll keep an eye on that. What that is letting you know is that perhaps some of the extensions that you downloaded or that came with the Rockettheme template have new updates that you could take advantage of. For some reason, they're not showing up. That sometimes happens. Just keep checking on that to make sure that you've got the latest updates on all of the extensions that come and have been installed with your program. Let's maybe take a look at the control panel for this particular template, and you'll remember where to find that is under Extensions and go to Template Manager, and the template that we're working with is the Lexicon template. You'll notice a little RT in front of it. That stands for Rockettheme, and we'll see that from time to time and use that in various ways, so keep an eye out for that RT in front of the lexicon or the template name. Now you notice that there's two here. There's a home and then there's a default. and that has the master beside it. And that's the one that we're going to make most of our changes to. And so that's the one we'll take a look at. We'll get into, in another tutorial, we'll talk about overrides. If we went in here, we would see most of the same settings that appear here in the default, but there might be one or two differences for this particular implementation of the lexicon template that has the sample data that we included. But for now, let's just take a look at the master one. We notice right away over here that our gantry engine needs an update. Whenever it shows red here, it means that Rockettheme has updated the gantry engine, which is kind of the main platform that all of the Rockettheme templates run on. We're going to be working with the Gantry 4 templates in this particular tutorial series, and in another later tutorial series we'll talk about Gantry 5. But in this series we're going to work with Gantry 4, and we see that it has an update. It says please download the latest version now. So let's click on that and make sure that our gantry is up to date. How you do that is click on the gantry engine and then go up to update there and click on that, and we get a message that everything was successful. We can go back to our template manager, go back into the master. Now, from time to time, you'll also notice that the template itself has been updated, and you want to keep up to date with those versions as well. One of the reasons why it's important to keep updated is because a lot of times, not only are they fixing little bugs that people might find, but also it sometimes will plug in holes that hackers have found, and you want to make sure that your website always is secure. And if you let your website go without updating it for a couple of years, you can be sure that some hacker is going to have found a way in to your website and cause all sorts of problems. I can tell you that by experience. Don't let your websites go for a couple of years without keeping it updated on the latest version of the template, latest gantry version, latest updates to the extensions. Just keep everything updated. Okay, so now just to give you kind of a preview of some of the things that you will be able to work with in this template, and some of the options that you have to customize your site. You can tab through here and see all of the things that you will be able to control here in the back end of the, well, we call it the control panel of this Rockettheme template. And you compare that to the options that we had with the freebie template that came with Joomla, you will no doubt be amazed at the incredible options that we have to customize the site. And we'll get into that more in perhaps our next tutorial as we start to customize our site. And for now, let's save and close out of this. And let's take a look at the site with the sample data that we uploaded. And the way that we get to our site, of course, is up here at the top right-hand corner. You see the name of the domain that you set this up on. Just click on that, and that takes you to the website based on the sample data that we installed. And wow, look, it did include the photographs in this particular template. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's always helpful when it includes the photographs that you also saw at the demo site, because then you can kind of play around with it and visualize and get ideas of what you can do with this template as you play with the sample data that came with it. Now, there's a couple of nice things about installing the sample data. First of all, you can play around with it and get some ideas of how you can base your website on the sample. However, it can also act as a kind of a documentation for the site and give you some ideas as you orient yourself to the style of the Rockettheme environment. For example, up here under features, first of all, you can get a features overview of this particular template, but it'll also give you some idea of the module positioning. The Rockettheme templates are set up in such a way that you can position the elements of your website based on module positions. And here, under the features module positions, you can get an idea of where all of these modules are. And it's a good idea to become familiar with the names of the positions, the header, the drawer, the top, slideshow, showcase, breadcrumb, utility, the main top, expanded top. All of these names you'll see them again and again. And not only will these appear in the order that they're shown here, but you will also have 6 different positions for each of these. As you look across your website, you can, like, say you want to place a sidebar on the left side of your website. Well, then you would place the sidebar in the A position of one of these modules. If you wanted to put it on the right hand side, of course you'd want to put it over on F. And we'll talk more about that, but this gives you an idea of how you can be very precise in placing the elements of your website just exactly where you'd like to have them. And it's not a bad idea to print this out so that you always have it as a reference, and they do have a little print icon up here, so you could just click on that and print out a nice reference manual for the modules and the module positioning for this particular template. Okay, and module variations will give you an idea of some of the styling that you can do with this particular template. And of course, these are just the default ones. You can always change things in ways that we will show you. Typography shows you the different types of fonts that come with this particular theme. You can choose to use the fonts that come with this theme, or it'll give you options to choose a different type of font families. Menu options. And so you can see that this is kind of like your documentation for the theme. Now, you might be asking, well, what happens when I get rid of all this sample data and start working on my own website? I'm going to lose all of this documentation. Well, no, not really, because remember, you can always go back to the Rockettheme website and go down and find the theme that you are working with, click on in the demo, and there you'll have all of the same sample data. And again, you can go to some of these reference materials and print out if you need to again, or just read it online. Okay, a couple of other things we might point out. Here you can take a look at 6 different presets that this theme comes with and see if there isn't something that's just a little bit closer to what you were looking for to start out with. This kind of shows different color schemes that you can start with by default. Some of the page surrounding textures will probably change as we look at a couple of these. And so that's something to take a look at. Just want to point out a couple of things at the Rockettheme website itself that you will probably find very helpful from time to time. And let's say you're working in the middle of the night on your website and you come up against a brick wall. You just can't figure out how to do something. It's just not playing nicely with you. And maybe it's a situation that I haven't addressed in one of our tutorials. And so you're just wondering what to do, how to get some help. Well, if you're a registered user at Rockettheme and you're logged in, you can go over to the forum and you can scroll down to the particular template that you're working on. In this case, it's the lexicon theme. And once you're there, you can click on the search, enter some keywords that relate to the question that you have, and there's a really good chance that somebody else has run into the same problem that you have and have asked the question, and the moderators of Rockettheme have answered it very quickly, very nicely, and there's a good chance that you'll be able to work through your problem based on the answers that appear on your search query. So that's a great tool to keep in mind. Also know that there is some documentation at the Rockettheme website. Be sure to click on Joomla, since we're working with Joomla templates. And here there are a lot of good text tutorials, not only about Joomla, but also the Rockettheme templates, either the Gantry 4 or the Gantry 5, and specifically on the templates that you are working with. So we could go down to lexicon, for example, and find that there is a lot of good information here on the template that you're working with. Well, hopefully that will be a good orientation for you on the Rockettheme templates, and we look forward to seeing you in our next lesson.